Can you explain what central fatigue is and why does endurance training increase it more than strength training? Good question. We used to believe that the hardest thing for the nervous system was heavy lifting because rightfully so, when you lift heavier weights, especially on big compound movements, you need more nervous system activity. Because of the complexity of the motor skill, which requires the coordination of more muscles, also need to create a higher level of tension, and so on and so forth. So yeah, lifting heavy weights will increase central fatigue, just like going to failure will increase central fatigue, because when you get to those extra reps, it has basically the same feel as a max effort rep. Okay, but that is pretty transient. The main thing that will cause central fatigue is not long distance cardiovascular exercise, it's the hard cardio. Like the cardio that makes you feel like you are drowning and on fire at the same time. High intensity intervals, metcons like CrossFit workouts, for example, and stuff like that. Very, very high intensity energy systems work. And I'm going to explain why. First, you need to understand what is central fatigue and how it affects performance and gains. Central fatigue is, first of all, it has nothing to do with feeling fatigue. It's simply a weakening of the central drive from the motor cortex to your muscle tissue. So basically, imagine that your nervous system sends a flow of water to the muscle it wants to activate, and the water is what turns the muscles on, right? Well, central fatigue would be reducing the strength of the water output, so less water is being poured out. Why is that important? Because we have what's called in our body high threshold motor units, fast twitch fibers. They are called high threshold because they have a high threshold to being activated. So basically, you need to have a very strong excitatory signal making its way through the muscle for the fast twitch fibers, the high threshold motor unit, to be brought into play. If you are creating central fatigue, so you're decreasing the amount of impulse that makes it to the muscle, then it's going to be a lot harder for you to recruit the fast twitch fibers because it requires a strong signal and the central signal is getting weaker. See what I mean? So when you think about strength, which requires fast twitch fibers, when you're thinking about speed and power, which obviously requires fast twitch fibers, but also hypertrophy, because the fast twitch fibers have a lot more growth potential than the slow twitch fibers and even intermediate fibers. So if you reduce your capacity to recruit the fast twitch fibers, you reduce the efficacy of your sets, even if they're taken to failure. Okay. Technically, if you go to failure, you will recruit the fast twitch fibers, but not if the central signal is weak. That's why anything that will weaken the central drive can make all the sets done after that point less effective, even though you give all you've got to these sets. That's why, for example, if you're training to failure, which creates more central fatigue, you cannot do as many sets. Well, you can do more sets if you want, but those sets, even if taken to failure themselves, will not cause growth because they just won't recruit the fast twitch fibers as much. Okay, why would something like hard cardio be more detrimental to central fatigue than lifting? It's because of the triggers of central fatigue. The main triggers of central fatigue are pain and discomfort signal, or information sent from the muscles, sent from the tendons, sent from the fascia, sent from the skin to the brain, telling the brain that what you're doing is freaking hard and it's going to hurt your body. Okay, it's not a good thing for your body. So the more of these discomfort, pain signals you have going to your brain, the more your brain will shut itself down to prevent damage. Okay, that's what central fatigue is. It's a protective mechanism against doing something crazy bad for your body. So those pain signals are the warning signs. Now, those pain signals could be, again, discomfort, could be muscle pain, the pump, the nasty pump you get, even though that some people like it, okay, it's still perceived by your body as pain or discomfort, okay? If you go to failure and then it's burning like crazy, but you're trying to pull and pull, it hurts, it's painful, it's pins and needles. That's a sensation that tells your body that something dangerous is going on. You're working close to your limit and it will create inhibition. It could be mental suffering. It could be even something like the weather or the temperature. If you feel physically uncomfortable, it will lead to central fatigue faster than if you feel comfortable. Like me, if I train when it's hot, my body doesn't like heat. So I'm not comfortable in heat. It creates more fatigue in me. So if I'm training in an hot environment, it would create central fatigue a lot faster. I cannot do many sets when I'm hot, okay? So all these symptoms, or obviously pain. If you have an injury and it hurts your tendon, strong signal that will create central fatigue. So when you have an injured muscle, even if you can do the movement, you cannot do as many sets because the pain signal sent to the nervous system will create that problem. Now, interesting fact. I know that TC posted an article about a study showing that I think it was Tylenol acting as, I don't want to say anabolic drug, but something that actually made you gain more. And the main reason would be that Tylenol, by acting as an anti-pain or anesthetic supplement or product, it decreases the strength of the pain signals making it to your brain. So you actually receive less of the pain and discomfort signal to the brain, which creates less fatigue, central fatigue, allowing you to do more sets that are effective. Because remember, any sets done once you're central fatigue, then it's no longer effective. So by reducing the strength of the pain signals, it can actually delay central fatigue. Now, let's get back to our topic. So if you look at high intensity interval, you feel like you're drowning and on fire at the same time. There's nothing in the world, at least in my mind, that is more uncomfortable when it comes to training sensations than that. That's why high intensity interval, CrossFit WODs, and stuff like that create so much central fatigue. The signal of discomfort, pain, and effort is so high. It's so high that it creates a very strong inhibitory sensation that can actually linger for 48 hours. So your muscles might be fully recovered, but the strength of the signal is not yet back online. So that's why when you're programming, so I'm not going to train today, I'm just going to do a HIIT. Well, you know what? A HIIT session, a true HIIT session, is probably more damaging from a recovery standpoint, at least neurologically speaking, than a lifting session. And if you do your hard cardio the day before a lifting workout, it very well might decrease the effectiveness of that workout by having lingering central fatigue throughout the workout. So that's why I say that cardiovascular or hard cardio exercise is more detrimental. That's why also when and that's something I covered in the Fat Loss webinar that you can watch for free on the T Nation Plus section, the Fat Loss Secret webinar, I mentioned that I very rarely use high intensity intervals. And when I use it, it's like once a week at the end of a fat loss period. The reason is that it's so stressful on the body from a recovery standpoint that it basically, well, yeah, you're going to burn, quote unquote, a good amount of calories during your session. But really, if it impairs your capacity to train hard for 2 days, then in my opinion, it's not a good deal. It's not a good deal. You can get the same amount of energy burn from like just walking with a backpack for, yeah, it's going to be longer. You might have to do it for an hour instead of 15 minutes, but it will not negatively impact your next 2 workouts. So in the long term, it's going to be more beneficial. Now, I'm not telling you not to use high intensity intervals, but that it is something that you cannot do every single day if you want to lose fat. It's just going to kill your progress 100%.
If you enjoyed this information, hit that like button to let us know. Plus, if you never want to miss another T Nation video again, hit subscribe and that little notification bell right next to it.